Welcome to Monage, the channel that brings you everything regarding anime, manga, and webtoon related content. In the first episode of this series, we spoke on the topic of the power of the main protagonist from the very reputable webtoon series, Unordinary. Today we'll be talking about the ability of his arch nemesis and rival, Arlo, which is dubbed by the creator Uru-chan herself, Barrier. Honestly, the name of the ability itself is pretty straightforward, but in a sense I understand where the confusion may lie when cogitating this ability. This is a video that provides an extremely easy to follow, detailed but very brief explanation of the fabled barrier power. Let's get started. See, in a normal sense, the word barrier itself usually just means a fence or other obstacle that prevents movement or access. But we definitely aren't talking about normal when we bring up into conversation the world of Unordinary, where students are legally allowed to mortally wound or put each other in critical condition on the most absurd of whims just because their social ranking and power level is higher. A better word that more sensibly describes the ability that Arlo possesses would be force fields. Force fields are invisible barriers of exerted strength or impetus. We aren't new to the notion of force fields either, as a quick Google search will tell you that the earliest use of a rendition of the term is dated back to 1931 when it was first implemented into a science fiction novel about a space voyage to Mars entitled Space Hounds of the IPC, officially published in 1947, way back when force fields were just in simplest terms energy walls or some shit like that. Of course, we aren't talking about the first use of the idea itself when explaining its use in Unordinary. It took several decades of different interpretations before force fields specifically became what we know today. Slight examples of the different renditions of this idea that exist today include characters from shows like Cartoon Network's Steven and Steven Universe, Marvel's Invisible Woman and Fantastic Four, Cartoon Network's Ben and Ben 10 on multiple occasions, and King of the beloved anime series, Seven Deadly Sins. These are the most random interpretations of the ability I could find, but valid nonetheless. Still though, an extremely high amount of different depictions exist today, and each show/comic is generally more creative with the idea morphing it into their own interpretation of the original concept. Uru-chan's rendition of the ability gives the character who utilizes it an ultimate defense and a pretty viable offense as well. In short summary, Arlo's aura and ability Barrier allows the user to construct and generate transparent, nearly invisible, protective force fields that are almost completely impenetrable. These force fields are usually yellow tinted due to the user, of course, and can be unlimited in size and shape. Once the ability is activated, a barrier can be placed virtually anywhere, and its main offensive move is that it reflects back the damage it takes. In John's case, when he activated his power and combined Cecile and Zeke's abilities with Arlo's, he could passively break down parts of the barrier, using them as mini projectiles, turning it into an entirely new offensive ability. These barriers can be used to trap enemies and protect comrades. Even in its inactive passive state, it has slight abilities that can be used to deflect attacks. It is one of the most powerful and useful abilities in the series. It's the peak of all defensive abilities, and when the possessor is highly skilled and trained at utilizing its strength, it becomes fatal to most foes. The potential it has for being top 10 in power in the Unordinary world is spectacular. The first time we see a real use of the ability, emphasis on real, was on episode 16 of the series during the Turf Wars challenge, which had Arlo, who was the king of Wellston High School at the time, fighting Rain, the queen of its main competitor, Agwin High School. During the fight, Arlo always had the upper hand, as leaving herself open while attacking him could have been lethal to her. The highest feat we've ever seen from Arlo using barrier aside from the Turf War so far is on episode 56 of the Webtoons comic when he is fighting John and is able to hold his own forbid against an opponent with multiple abilities including his own. Arlo literally is still classified a god tier among the students of Wellston. We learn more and more about his prowess throughout the rest of the series, and two main weaknesses/drawbacks of the power include its immense vulnerability to being broken or shattered completely depending on the skill and power level of the enemy, and that the damage done to the barrier is actual physical damage inflicted upon the user. We see examples of this in episodes 17, 56, and 155, which each show an instance where Arlo faces against a higher tier opponent and has had his entire barrier either completely shattered or broken slightly. Yeah, that's all I got for the explanation. I sincerely hope you guys enjoyed watching because it was kind of a hassle to edit, and record all of this. But yeah, it was entertaining for me. This was pretty fun. I enjoyed making these. Thank you guys for watching. Like and subscribe and do it all that or whatever, and comment on what you want my next video to be about. Peace.